Welcome to Pure Mind Magic, the show to evolve your mind. Our mind is the most powerful thing we have, but no one teaches us how to use it. When we find out how, we're ready to create magic in life and in business. Learn real mindset secrets from brilliant minds around the world to change your mindset and income level forever. With every decision you make, you create your future. What is your next move? Now, welcome your host, international magician, speaker, and podcast performance consultant, Jennifer S. Royal.
Hi, this is Jennifer, and welcome back. I decided to do a high energy interview today for you with a really high energy powerhouse. Her name is Heahter Vickery, and she is a success and leadership coach and teaches you how to take bold and courageous action to make things really happen. So it's all about taking action, and it's also about how you transform from chaos to clarity, especially in your mind, but also in your environment. Heahter is also the producer and host of the podcast, The Brave Files, where I had the honor to be interviewed by her already. So when you are new in the show here, please make sure that you subscribe to Pure Mind Magic, that you won't miss any of the new and upcoming episodes I prepared for you. And before we dive into the interview, quick note from my side, maybe you've listened to the interview last week that was all about influencer marketing. And just so you know, there is still the opportunity to opt into this online course on influencer marketing that you can learn it all by yourself. I will leave a link for this in the show notes below this episode again. And now I think you are all ready to take action to get all this wisdom from Heahter. And as I said, she has this tremendous energy that you will feel. So you will be prepared and will feel ready to take action and to get all this clarity in your mind, because we know that clarity is power, and also clarity leads to power. And when you are about to be a good leader and to get better leadership skills, then this is the number one key. But also, of course, the better you know your goal and what you want to do or have, the easier it is that you really get motivated and are ready to take action. So this is an episode on action and how to transform your mindset to really get into the mood of taking action. Welcome to the show, Heahter Vickery. Hi, Heahter. Welcome to Pure Mind Magic.
Hello, Jennifer. It's so nice to talk to you again.
Yes, again. So we did it the other way around because you are a podcast host too of the show, The Brave Files. We will talk about that and also your coaching business and how you can help the listeners to get more clarity, take action, and improve their mindset. Before we go into all the good stuff, can you give us a short introduction of who you are and what you are doing?
Okay, so the elevator pitch is I'm a success and leadership coach, and those are fancy words. They're fancy words for life and business coach, but I use them very intentionally because I believe that to be successful and a leader in business, you have to be doing the same thing in your life. And so I always say I will do life coaching without business coaching, but I won't do it the other way around. Those things all are very, very intertwined. But I have been an entrepreneur for over 22 years. Aging myself here just a little bit. I did start right out of college, if that makes you feel any better. And I moved into coaching about 5 years ago full time and took my entrepreneurship experience and partnered that with a lot of life experience through some pretty difficult transformations for myself, and started helping people figure out what they really, really want, not just what they think they want or what somebody's told them they want, but what they want, why they don't already have it. And then we create a roadmap to getting it together.
Very nice. And it's great that you use these terms in this special way, because I'm convinced that words really have power, and
Yes.
the better you are in communication, the more successful you are. And it's really interesting because just an hour ago, it was so funny because I was out there getting lunch. You know, I'm ahead of you concerning time. And there was a child, and he was in this food store, and they had these boxes for kids. And then he said, I would like to have the box over there. And then the waitress was wondering, and he named it because it was a deck of cards, like this playing cards for kids with the cars. So it was something with premium cars. And he just mentioned the name, but he said this box, not the cards. And, you know, some of these cards are wrapped in plastic boxes. And he said that, and the waitress, I knew what he meant, but the waitress had no clue. And then I thought again, so this was just an example how important it is to communicate very clearly to make another person understand what exactly you mean.
Absolutely. Words matter a lot. And I spend a ton of time with folks talking about that when I'm speaking or when I'm working one-on-one with a client. Words matter in a way that they can get you what you want, or they can stop you from getting what you want. And you can be saying the exact same thing, but you have to know your audience. And you have to remember that your intention does not equal your impact. Just because you meant it one way doesn't mean it's received that way. So you have to think about who's going to hear what you're saying to get the result that you want.
Very good point, Heather, and you described that so good. So we know communication is a very important part, but then there's another thing. So it's action, because a lot of people say something and then they do something different. So you are the expert. What is your advice?
Well, if you stay right where you are, you'll always be right where you are. So you have to get into motion to make any change, to create any transformation, big or small. But what you don't have to do, and this is where I think when people think, oh, I'm going to get into action, I'm going to go, and it's a little overwhelming maybe or a little stressful. I don't recommend really big, giant action or really big steps. Figure out what you want and then break down into the teeniest, tiniest steps how you can start working towards that overall vision. Do little things that you can feel good about checking off your list, and they add up. And the next thing you know, you have taken the big steps. There's no overnight success here. There's nothing that's going to just make it or break it in a week. It all takes small, intentional action.
That is so true. Now, we have action, we have words or communication, but what goes first are our thoughts. So everything starts in our mind. And I know, Heather, that you are really also into business strategies, and you mentioned the roadmap. So before we take action and communicate what we want, we have to clarify everything for ourselves and think the right thoughts. So what are your best tips on the mind work here?
Well, those tips are hard because it matters. Words don't just matter when you're talking to other people. They matter for yourself. And so that's even your internal dialogue and how you're willing to perceive something. Perception creates reality. And that feels a little far-fetched to people. But if you decide it's going to be bad, it's probably going to be bad because you can't find the good. Does that mean you can think your way? It's funny. I heard a great analogy not that long ago that I loved. So imagine you're in the car, pre-iPod, okay, because you're listening to the radio and you are listening to this R&B station and it's great and you love it, but all of a sudden you decide you really want to hear some classic rock. Do you think if you just sit there and go, any minute, this R&B station's going to start playing Bruce Springsteen, that will work? Or how do your chances change if you just change the channel to the classic rock station and hope Bruce Springsteen comes on, right? You have to take some action to get there mentally, right? You have to choose to think a certain way and to change your thought process to welcome things in. This is why there are two things that I think make a big difference mentally. One is steeping yourself in gratitude, and the other is celebrating the small successes. both of those things have the power to shift you out of a scarcity mindset and into an abundance mindset. And you can put tactic, strategic, analytical things with them. So if you're not what we call woo-woo, and I actually hate that word. I wish we could come up with a better one. But if you're not into the metaphysical stuff and the mindset stuff, just consider it a system, a business system. If you track your gratitude at the end of each day, write down 3 to 5 things that happen that you're grateful for, or there are a million other ways to be in touch with gratitude, or stop and honor and celebrate when things go well, what your wins are. It will shift your mindset, whether you think it will or not. It will.
Perfect. That is so true. And talking about gratitude. So a lot of people on my show mentioned that and how powerful it is. And I guess we can even say that it has like this magical powers because it really can turn everything in an instant, like from 1 second to another, like your feelings, your thoughts, your mood in general. And before we started recording, you were mentioning, Heather, that you do have a new gratitude journal that you created from your mind. So you made it real. Can you share some insights with us how this works and how it can help the listeners to, really
absolutely
achieve success?
So I first of all, I just have to say, I absolutely am in love with the way that you're making the regular things we do feel magic. That's a really beautiful approach, and I'm going to borrow it. I'll give you credit, I promise. But you made this real from your mind. It's like, yes, I did. About 3 years ago, I really started practicing gratitude myself. I joined a Facebook group that was dedicated to coming in every day and writing out 5 things that we were grateful for. And I discovered that some days it was really easy and some days it was really hard. And I would say like, oh my God, what am I grateful for? Well, I'm grateful that I have legs that work. And then I would stop and I would go, whoa, I'm really grateful that I have legs that work. And I know people who don't, right? And we don't ever, rarely stop and think about those small, seemingly small, normal things to be grateful for. And what I started to discover was that for me, there wasn't time to think about all of the negative, bad things if I was focusing on the things that were present, that were good. And I started to do some research on it because I couldn't believe that this was just mindset work. There had to be science behind it. And sure enough, there is. A really phenomenal doctor, Robert Emmons, has done a ton of work in this. There's some neuroscience around it that literally your brain can only focus, which is why I say don't multitask, on one thing at a time. And if you are choosing for that to be the path of gratitude, it crowds out the other stuff. Does it mean that you never have scary, negative, bad thoughts? Of course it doesn't, but you can veer off that path quicker and they don't stay as long. So I decided to write out my story towards gratitude, how I transformed in that, and then the science behind gratitude and why gratitude matters and different ways that you can practice gratitude. And I partnered that with a journal that has 180 different entries. And in each entry, it asks you what you're grateful for the day. It asks you to share your personal wins because I mentioned celebration earlier, and I believe deeply that it's a very big deal. And wins are different than gratitude. You can be grateful for anything, really. But wins are about things that you personally have done well. And finding little wins every day is incredibly powerful. And then the most fun thing, I think, in the journal is that there are 180 unique prompts to help you connect with gratitude in a seemingly different way. So they're a little bit fun. They'll get you thinking about things that you probably wouldn't have thought about in the first place. And I think you're all going to love it. It's just a beautiful journal, and it's going to shift your mind. And that's literally the quote on the front. It says, shift your focus. And that's what we want you to do. We want you to shift your focus towards gratitude and celebration and positive abundance mindset.
Amazing. So I can't wait for it to be out. I love this kind of.
It's out as of May. It's
okay.
It's out.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's out. Perfect.
You can go to my website and get it right now.
I can grab one. So because I love these journals, and especially when they are made so nicely, so that you like to touch it and write in it, and it's really interesting. And I'm a huge lover of notebooks, so I carry them everywhere. I have always one with me, so in my car, beside my bed, everywhere, because you never know when intuition hits you and you have a big breakthrough and you have to write it down then this moment. And I found that there's some magic in it when from time to time you review them again and go through the pages, because it's so interesting, and it's like the pages come to life and you spark even new ideas while doing it.
Absolutely. Well, I hope you'll grab a copy of the Gratitude Journal and then send me a picture of you with it all the way over in Germany, because that would be fun. I actually am also putting an ebook out for just the written portion of it. There's been an interesting, as I've talked to people as I was getting ready to produce this, it seems overwhelmingly that women are delighted to have it in paper format. They like to write their thoughts down, and men want to be digital. Not all. If you're a man out there listening and you like to write things down, that's awesome. Please grab your copy of the journal. So I may be looking into an app version, but that's a little out of my knowledge realm right now. So I'm not sure I'm ready to jump into that. But the written content, and I go a little bit more in depth as to other ways to practice gratitude beyond just writing in a journal, and different ways you can connect, and some more personal stories and things like that, is available as an ebook on Amazon and my website as well.
That sounds really good. And I guess, Heather, there's something you have to leave your comfort zone for to create this app, right?
Well, I'm all about, in fact, my tagline, my famous quote is, everything you really want is just on the other side of uncomfortable. I have magnets that say that I give out when I speak, and all of these things. But I also, my own coach used to say to me, my mentor, it's never that you don't know how to, it's just that your want to isn't cranked up high enough. So my want to isn't high enough yet on that app, but it's on my list. Talking about magic and mindset, and I have a rule. I have a 3-time rule. If something comes to me, if the universe brings it 3 times, then I know it's time to take action on it.
That's a cool rule. So when you take something from me, I guess I'm going to take this from you. that sounds really good. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I experienced that from time to time, for example, with books. So it wasn't just 24 hours, and this book crossed my path in different ways. And then I thought, okay, I have to get this book now.
Yep. That's absolutely it. That was how I ended up with the journal, and with all of the other new things I do. When they come to me in different ways 3 times, it's time to move on it.
Perfect.
I like to listen to my intuition. I think my intuition is really sharp. So
yes, I would agree with that. So I can imagine that it is, and I think 3 is this magic number. So it's 3 and 7. So some numbers are really magical, and that's a good question. So there are so many stories around the number, and I think it's this mind, body, soul connection with 3. So maybe it has to do with it.
I'm going to write that down, because I really like that.
Okay.
I use 3 all the time. My career I started as an event and wedding planner, and even then I would present 3 proposals. I would take them to 3 vendors. I would say, if we're going to do pillows, they have to be 3 or 5. So it's always been a thing, but I never really thought of it as a magical number, but I'm super into it.
Perfect. So you see, every time when we talk, we both have to have our notebooks ready, because last time when you interviewed me, I did the same, because it was so enlightening with you, the whole conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Too bad you're so far away. Maybe I'll just have to come out to Germany and hang out with you. Where are you in Germany?
In Munich.
All right. I haven't been to Munich, but I did spend a couple of weeks in Germany when I was in college. So it's a beautiful country.
At least. Yeah, it is. And especially at the moment. So really sunny. You would like it.
It was spring break when I was there. I'd visited my cousin is no longer Earthside, but he had been studying abroad, and I went to spend 2 weeks with him. It's really a magical memory for me.
Cool. So, Heather, time to get some more secrets revealed from you. So it's really amazing that you have this clarity, and I can really hear this clarity in your voice. So it's so interesting with all my guests, and there are so big differences, and it's so interesting how powerful the voice is with the frequency, and you can tell so much from just listening to the voice of someone. And it's interesting. I even had like several 7-figure entrepreneurs on the show, and I was kind of shocked how low the energy level was. So it's really interesting.
It really is. Same with me on my show. You never quite know who's going to really bring it from an energy level.
Yes, but the audience can feel it. So,
of course,
and it's sometimes like then there is almost no way to get the energy up when this other person has this really low energy level. So
Sure.
strange. And I found out most of the time, so people I was least expecting it, they were on this low energy with their voice. And then people where I thought, was this really the perfect idea to get this guest? And then I was so surprised and thought, wow, good energy. So what are your experiences there from your podcast, The Brave Files?
Absolutely the same thing. But my show is, I tell stories of everyday people just like you and me who have chosen in both big and small ways to step out of fear and into bravery and live courageous lives. And so those stories vary. And you have a lovely story, which yours is such a fun, unique story. And I've told stories that seem more obvious, people who have been wrongly imprisoned or whose children have battled cancer, or, all of these obvious ways that you get pushed into bravery. But how you learn that fear doesn't really go away. You just do it scared. The goal is not to be fearless. In fact, I have T-shirts printed up that you can buy on my website that say, one says choose bravely and the other says brave is greater than fearless. It's got the greater than sign. It's such a big deal. So people are telling their personal stories. And what I have discovered is that when people are telling stories that evoke memories of really difficult, tragic things, it's very healing for them. They think, I don't know that I can tell this story, or I'm not sure how well I will tell this story. And then when they listen back to it, they feel so empowered that they've overcome, and how they have this new perspective of being able to see how whatever their brave story was that they're sharing has informed the rest of their life, and how they make decisions differently and make choices differently now and do choose bravely. So what I have found is there have only been a handful of times that I get folks on that will sell me what sounds like a brave story. And I say sell because you got to pitch it before I can put you on the show. And then when we get on, that's not really what they're selling. They don't choose bravely in the important ways just because they quit a corporate job to start a new business. It's brave, I get it, but that's not what it's all about. And so there have been 2 particular times where I chose not to air an episode because I don't believe their story. It doesn't feel good, and their energy levels were off, and it's not what my listeners are looking for. Because when you listen to my show, at the end, you've learned something, you've been inspired by something, you've been motivated to try something new. You want to reach out. I have people all the time. I want to reach out to that guest, or I want to help that guest. We have a charity component, which I think is super duper important. So we inspire and connect. And if I don't think that interview is going to do that for folks, I won't air it.
Very good.
It's only happened twice.
Yeah, that's good. But yeah, it happens. And I think this is then good when you don't do it live. So this week I've been to a live show, to an American business show, and they had like in the last 3 months, 39 million downloads. So that was,
wow.
Yeah, that was really huge. And it was really the first podcast live show. So as a magician, I've been to several radio stations all over Germany and did it there, and some of them were live. So it's another tension when you are there, and so it's really live, and you just have this one chance, like in a live magic show, and it has to work. So there's no other way. So you have to be fully present. And I found it's kind of when you are a guest, you act differently because you are so on the spot. And in other shows, when you give interviews and it's recorded, it's okay. So there is not all this pressure. And sometimes I think it's not so focused. So it was an interesting experience, especially with those big numbers of people listening to this show.
Yeah.
So really interesting. Yeah.
I think I would love that though. I love live energy. I have a musical theater background and a degree, English and theater degree from college. And I love a live audience. I do a lot of public speaking and presenting. And so if anybody has a live podcast, I would like to be on your show.
So, okay, that was a calling for my audience.
Put it out into the universe.
Yes.
Bring me to be a live guest on your show. And also, I love to travel. My word of the year. Do you do a word of the year, Jennifer?
The word of what?
A word of the year. Each new year.
No, yeah, okay.
Yeah?
No, not yet. I haven't done this, but I guess you have.
I have. I always do. And it's about mindset. It's about manifestation. What do you want to bring into your world this year? And my word this year is explore. And it's been in the past, the word has been brave. It's been connect. It's been intention. But explore means so many different things. In fact, I wrote what I think is a really great blog post about it because it is about travel, but it's not. I'm exploring writing my first full novel. I'm exploring different ways that I can speak and present and connect with people. Like the list goes on and on. I'm exploring reading at least one book every month for the entire year. And so I love adventure and challenge. And I want to find it in every teeny tiny crevice of my life.
Very nice. So you should come to Germany.
Yes, I should.
So, Heather, to get this covered for everyone who got interested now in your podcast, The Brave Files, where I had the honor to be interviewed by you, where can people find it?
Anywhere that you listen to podcasts. So easy to find us if you search. I'm sorry, Jennifer. Easy to find us if you search on Apple Podcasts or really any podcast app or even on iHeartRadio and all of those easy ways. And then you can also find it through my website, which is vickeryandco.com. It's where you can find blog posts and some video information about me, but also you can listen to the podcast and see all the show notes there as well. My kids think it's really awesome that you can just put my name into Google and a bunch of stuff pops up. They think I'm famous, and I hate to break it to them that it's just the way the internet works.
Heather, some illusions are good, so you shouldn't destroy them. So keep them. As long as you can. So that's perfect. And I would agree that you're kind of famous. And I found out too. So when I Google your name, there's a lot of stuff about you. So you do a lot of things. And this brings me to my next question, because you mentioned you're in speaking. We know you have this podcast. You have now the Gratitude Journal. You're helping people in coaching. You have online classes, events. What are your best tips on structuring a day so that you get the most out of a day without too much distraction?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I will give you those tips, but I will say this. If your mindset is not right, these tips will not work for you. You have to want them to work. So my first tip is to bookend your day. Do not open your phone or check your email as soon as you wake up. Find a dedicated time. Maybe it's 30 minutes later. Maybe it's an hour later after you've worked out or had breakfast or whatever. And then agree to close it 30 minutes before you're going to close out your workday. And then in between, the biggest thing is what I call batch tasking. So multitasking, which we've all been trained to think is such a great idea, is such a load of baloney. You cannot do anything really well if you are trying to do other things at the same time. It's just not possible. So rather than trying to work on this email and trying to write up this thing and servicing this client, figure out what your priority is of order and sit very focused on one thing at a time. And then, so schedule times to check your email. If you get a phone call, it's okay. You can call them back. It's fine. And you will find out that you have actually more time in your day. If you batch task and stay super hyper focused on that one thing and don't squirrel around to different things and try to multitask, you will get 3 times as much stuff done in one day. I guarantee it.
A magic formula.
But if you don't believe me, it won't work. You have to be there mentally.
Yes, the magic of believing. And you're
Yeah.
right with the mindset. So that's it. So let's say, Heather, how do you start your day actually? So when you get up in the morning, you mentioned something that is so important, not touching your phone and getting like, I don't know, owned by your phone and by all the negative news and messages and everything that's popping up. So we have this out of the way. But what would you say are like the first steps to get in a good mood, to take time for yourself, just to start the day in the right direction?
I think that's going to be different for everyone. And it's different for me. So I'm a single mom of 4 and I have my kids 50% of the time. So in the mornings that I have my kid, it's just like, can I stumble out of bed and get the cup of coffee? Just give me the coffee. And we're head first into making breakfast and lunch and all of those things. So I don't get to come back and do the mindset calming work until after 9:30 when I've dropped everybody off to school. On the mornings that I don't have them, I have a little bit more flexibility. Usually I don't, we took this call early because of the time difference, but usually I don't start any client calls or any podcast work or anything like that until about 10:30 in the morning. So I can get my coffee, I can sit in silence. I am exploring writing this novel, so I'm about to embark on having some writing time in the morning and figuring out what I want for the day. Some folks like to, and I encourage this for some people because it's nice to come in and know exactly where you're starting. They like to close out their day with a list in order of what they're going to work on the next day. And some people like to do it in the morning. And I sort of alternate between the two. But I don't want to feel rushed. Yet yesterday morning was a catastrophe. As soon as I opened my eyes, and unfortunately, I don't look at my phone right away, but it is the alarm clock. So I went to turn the alarm clock off, and there were notifications that I could tell needed my attention. My website had been attacked by what I thought was malware. So here's me like stumbling out of bed at, really early in the morning trying to deal with this. And I never recovered all day. By the time I went to bed, I was like, this day never got right, because how you do anything is how you do everything. And that was just going to be the whole day. There wasn't enough coffee in the world to get me through. And so I was so excited this morning. I was like, it's going to be different. I can't wait for it to be different. I'm choosing for it to be different. And you're in control. You're not stuck unless you want to be stuck. So build it the way you want it.
That sounds really great. And that's a good tip. So, Heather, I was mentioning that you have these online courses, and one grabbed my attention because the title is so cool. It has a title, Chaos to Clarity. And in case you know Dr. Joe Dispenza, he says in his seminars always that there's always chaos before there's order. And I would agree with that. And me, with my artist background, I have this like a weakness of chaos sometimes, and I do my best to get it in order, but I'm sure that there really is a connection, like in when you have this chaos around you, that you have a kind of chaos inside yourself, and then that when you get this clarity inside yourself, that a lot of things clarify around you. So what is this course about, and how can the listeners enroll when they are interested?
Absolutely. So Chaos to Clarity is an audio-based course. As you can tell, I love the audio learning format. That's one of the reasons that I podcast. And I did produce Chaos to Clarity before I launched the podcast. I only run it twice a year. And the reason is it comes with a live coaching component, a group coaching component. So there are 16 different modules. There are 16 different episodes to listen to. I have nine phenomenal guest interviewees that come in and talk about very specific things. So we talk about overcoming fear. We talk about understanding your why. We talk about systems, strategies, and boundaries. We talk about accountability. Like the list is awesome, and you can see it all on my website. So I give you my coaching information on it, and then we talk to an expert in that field as well. And it's comes with a phenomenal workbook. So there are really thoughtful, detailed worksheets that go with each section. And then there are 4 live group coaching programs. So we want you to finish the course within a month, which is super doable. And then once a week during that month, we sit together as a group and talk through it and get you where you want to go, so that when you finish the course, not only do you have a clear plan and vision for what you want to do, you're already in motion. You're already doing the thing. Change is happening. You have lots to celebrate. It's super exciting. And I limit the course to 6 people, no more than 6 people per session, because of the coaching element, because I want to be able to give everybody the attention that they deserve. So it's super in demand. Twice a year, only 6 people. That's only 12 people a year that get to take it. And if you're interested, get on the wait list.
That sounds super intensive and very transformational.
It's fun. It's really a fun class.
That is cool. So, Heather, maybe once again, for everyone who's interested in connecting with you, finding everything you do on your website, can you give us your website and maybe other social media platforms or whatever where it is good to reach out and connect with you?
Absolutely. So my website is vickeryandco.com. That's also my handle on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Vickery and Co. You can find the Brave Files podcast has its own Facebook page. It's just that, the Brave Files podcast. And I'm on LinkedIn under my name. And I love to connect. I really do. There's a link on my website to set up a 15-minute virtual coffee date. If you want to get to know me better, you have more questions, you want to learn more about what I do, or you just want to say hi, reach out. I love to talk to anybody who's interested in sharing their story with me. And if I can support you, it would be my pleasure.
Fantastic. So thanks for sharing this. And I can tell from my experience that it really works, because I've sent you a LinkedIn invitation and I think 2 minutes later I got your answer. So that's true. How you do anything is how you do everything.
It is true, actually. And it's a little scary to sit with, because we don't always do things the way we want to. But it's a nice reminder to step back to where we want to be. The choice is yours. That's really what everything I work towards is about. And I think it's what you do too, Jennifer. You have a choice, and you can exercise it, or you can let other people write the story of your life. But I hope that you don't do that.
Perfect. So you shared so much great content, Heather, from your brilliant mind, and also insights and hot tips on how to go through the day in a high vibe productivity. Anything else you can share to wrap this episode up and leave our listeners really inspired for the day? Any quote, book recommendation, or just something from your personal experience? Up to you.
Oh, there's so much. I will tell you, it's very strange, but the book that caused the most transformation in my life is a book called Leadership and Self-Deception. It's not the most well-written book I've ever read, but the message in that book created a mind shift in me that has opened me up to just about everything, which is pretty exciting. Overall, I just want to remind you that, again, and I said this earlier, the goal is not to be fearless. The goal is to be brave. You can do it scared, whatever it is for you in life, in business, when it comes to relationships. But you can't do any of it unless you know what you want. You can't get somewhere you're going if you don't know where it is. So take the time to figure out what you want and how you want to be and who you want to be, and build it. I promise you, you can build it. Even if you think you can't, I can help you if you need help.
That's really magical advice for this episode. So Heather, thank you so much for being my guest today on Pure Mind Magic. That was really a pleasure talking to you again. And I can't wait to meet you one day in person and exchange our positive energies to create something magical, amazing that really transforms lives.
I couldn't agree more. I look forward to it. Thank you so much for having me on today, Jennifer.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining me today together with my guest expert, Heather Vickery. Make sure to visit her website, find out about her coaching offers, and also definitely listen to the Brave Files, her awesome podcast, to get even more inspiration to take action. All the best. Talk to you soon. Have a magical time. Until then, create some magic.